for people who want to attend speed dating, what would you suggest they focus on for those 5 minutes?
I think the conversation cards definitely help. Well, like I said, one of the questions is, what's a typical weekend? One was, what was the last concert that you've been to? So I actually overheard a conversation at one of the events, and someone said, the guy was like, yeah, I don't really like concerts. Like, I don't like loud music. And she was like, oh, the music in here, like, is this too loud for you? And he was like, yeah, like, this probably wouldn't be my choice or whatever. And so this is someone who loves going out to live music and loud concerts, and this other person doesn't. Yeah, so I think just think about what you want in a relationship and maybe try and work that into conversation. It's kind of hard because is someone going to sit there and say like, oh, I hate going to children's birthday parties? Like, right. I don't know.
I think the
way they answer it might be telling to how they actually...
We don't need to ask if you like going to children's birthday parties.
Yeah.
Nobody likes going to children's birthday parties.
Okay, that's true. Bad example. But like coming to a family function.
Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Taking Action. I'm your host, Michael Allen. Today I'm joined by my co-host, Brian Peaton, and our guest, Sarah Ozon. Sarah is the host of the Newfound Happy Hour podcast as well as Speed Dating NL. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so fun.
So tell us a little bit about how you got involved with what it is that you're into now.
Yeah, so... I mean, I don't even know where to start. The podcast I started in 2022... But it actually started as a blog, which I was remembering today. I was trying to think of how long ago it was. It was kind of just a blog to rant or to share things that I've learned. So me and my best friend kind of did that together because she lives in Ontario. So it was kind of a way for us to like turn our actual conversations into a blog post.
Right. Would you both be on each episode or each blog post?
Kinda. We would just like work on it together and then I would post it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So basically any life lessons or like things that we wanted to rant about.
No, it's just funny because this is kind of what happened to us.
Yeah.
We would get together, sit, have a drink, have conversations, and then one day one of us said, probably you, we should be recording this. So it sounds like you guys had the same sort of thing.
That's the same thing. So like we talk on the phone all the time. We've been best friends since we were 17, 18, and she moved away a while ago, so we have a lot of phone calls, and just all the things that you've realized like going through your 20s. We had similar conversations where it's like, oh, people need to hear this or like I wish we had someone tell us this before.
So give us an example of what you would talk about.
So I was trying to find the actual blog posts. They're deep in the depths of my email, but one of them was things that people would tell their 25-year-old self. So we were talking about it like I wish we had our older selves to ask like things that we should do at 25. So she's a year younger than me, my best friend. Her name is also Sarah. So that's kind of confusing. But she turned 25 year after I did. So for that whole year, I would go up to random women, like anywhere I was, and ask what they would have told their 25-year-old self. And so I had a list in my notes app, and that was one of the blog posts. It was like 10 pieces of advice from all these random women that they would tell their 25-year-old self.
Right. And was that recorded? Did you?
No, just I would just type it in my notes.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my chair here. So what would you tell your 25-year-old self?
I mean, I should have found it, the actual post, but just things like don't be afraid to leave a relationship. Don't be afraid to change a job. Don't be afraid to go back to school. Like a lot of things that people think is probably too late at 25, which it really is not.
No.
Yeah, just different things like that. I'll see if I can actually find it and send it to you guys.
Yeah, when you're 25, you feel like I remember when I was 25, I was like, okay. And I actually, when I was 26, I got out of a long-term relationship, and I thought at 26 I was too old. It sounds funny now. It
does, yeah.
That I was too old. I was like, oh my God, I'm too old. I'm going to find somebody to, start over. Most people in my age now are like paired up. They're going to have kids.
Right.
And that's what I was thinking at 26. That was more than a decade ago. And looking back, that was ridiculous.
You think your life is set in stone.
Yeah.
Because you probably have a degree and you think like, oh, well, I can't go back to school. But you can. People go back to school in their 30s and their 40s.
Sure.
And like people leave relationships at any age and get in new ones.
I mean, you must have some beautiful perspective on that. I think we chatted a little bit and you said dating in the different age groups between 20 to 30 and 30 to 40. And then when you get to like 50 to 65, it's a whole different game.
Yeah. Well, so I guess from the podcast, I kind of started the speed dating events. because we talk about relationships a lot on the podcast. And yeah, so there's been like a lot of different age groups. I think the first one was 25 to 35, and then I did 30 to 40, and then 50 to 65 is actually this week. But there was a 40 to 55. And so, yeah, as you get in the older age groups, it's not just talking about your past relationships, it's talking about your kids and your sick parents. And I was eavesdropping, not purposely, but I can hear all the conversations going on, and like that's a lot of what people are talking about. So it's not just I'm young and want to find a partner to settle down with. It's they have a whole life that they're trying to just find some companionship and whatnot. So
does that make it a lot harder for older people, do you think?
I don't know. There was still the same amount of matches. Like normally at least half the people at an event will get at least one match.
Okay.
So
what qualifies as a match? Getting a phone number?
No, so basically everyone's assigned a table where to start.
Yeah.
And normally we have a few less men than women. The women are very eager. They are messaging me all the time, asking for more events and whatnot. I've had a few men message, but it's normally the women. And so each event there's been less men. So normally the women will get assigned a table and the men get assigned a table to start at, and then they just move every 5 minutes.
Sorry to interrupt. I totally would have thought that you would have had more men than women.
No.
Yeah, see,
I don't know where they are.
I think online dating and the ambiguity of it and the anonymous nature of it is kind of changed the dating landscape. I can see that as well, how more men would be less confident and timid to go into the dating scene nowadays. Like, especially concerning that post I sent you the other day, where like these high-ranking men have a lot of women, can sleep around with a lot of women, and then have trouble deciding on which woman they want to pick, and then that's putting a lot of great women. It's changing what their perspective is and who they think they should be going for, and it's leaving a large category of men just alone. It's a really interesting post, and you can go into many different levels of that conversation, and we can go a little bit in there. But let's go a little bit back to the podcast, because you're right, we can really jump around a bit. But I want to hear...
It's all related.
Yeah, it is all related. So you did the blog, and then you wanted to turn it into a podcast.
Yeah, I was skeptical because who likes listening to their own voice? So, yeah, but I had friends encourage me, like my best friend who's doing the blog, she didn't want to do a podcast, but she was like, you should do that. I think like most, well, at least women my age, we always send snap vlogs or voice notes all the time. And that's like how we keep in touch.
This is a new thing to me, at least, these...
voice notes?
These voice
notes.
memos,
yeah.
So you know how when texting came out, everybody who wasn't used to texting said, just call. Like, why don't you just call? And then everybody got used to texting. And then texting has been around for so long now, a couple decades. And now I noticed Jane, my partner, she was doing this with her friends. Yeah. And a lot of times I was like, are you talking to me? Like, what are you doing? She's like, no, I was saying a voice note. I'm like, just text. Yeah. What's with the voice note? Just send a text or do a voice to text. Or, call. Like, this is it's weird. Do you find that weird?
It is a little weird, to be honest, because and a lot of times I can't listen to a voice message, but I can read a text in almost any scenario. So I don't really like the voice messages myself.
Yeah. It's like when you don't have time for a phone call. You're basically just having a phone call, but the other person doesn't have to be available right away. Yeah. And when you're telling a story, like you want to tell it in your own voice.
Right.
That's like what I think, at least.
It is better than text message because text doesn't have any tone, and that's a big problem for a while. Like, don't have a conversation over text because it's just terrible.
Well, then there's the other thing. It's called voicemail. But I guess then you've got to call and wait for the voice recording.
They need to purposely not answer or like purposely send it to voicemail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And plus, that you're about to get like some tea or a good story when it's like a 5-minute voice note coming in. So you can like wait until you're comfy and sitting down, and then you can listen to it.
I feel like this is more women that use voice notes than men. I would never send you a voice note. I'm not going to. Don't expect it.
That's your new thing now. No, I'm only going to accept voice notes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's going to be a lot of handwritten text messages.
Oh yeah, so we would send voice notes all the time, and some people said that I should do a podcast. They were like, you have a good radio voice, which I don't know. I don't see, but some people keep saying it. So I'm like, okay, I'll roll with it and fake it till you make it kind of thing. Then I started the podcast, and she was my first guest. So we just kind of talked about our friendship and whatnot.
So all types of relationships
is
an interest of yours.
Yeah.
That's great. I feel the same way. I'm very interested in relationships, and having gone through some bigger ones, I find you learn a lot from each relationship, and you can take a little bit and incorporate it into who you are and what you want in a partner.
Yeah, and I was single for most of my 20s, so my main relationships were my friendships. So, yeah, definitely put like a lot of importance on not just having romantic relationships, but like my friends who are basically family.
Yeah.
So the podcast started first, and then from that, you started the speed dating.
Yeah. So I have a couple friends who have been to speed dating events in other provinces, and I'm no longer single. I met someone back in Maine. We've been basically together ever since. But my single friends were like, I wish someone would do this here. And I was like, there has to be something. And I kind of looked it up, and I've since found out that there are some cornhole singles events. I think that's like an older demographic, but nothing where you actually do like the typical speed dating that you see in movies where you're sitting across from someone and every 5 minutes you switch. So yeah, she was like, I want to do that. And I was like, well, why don't I just host one? You can come to it. And, I'll put it up by the podcast because it already has some followers. So that's what I did. That's why it's like presented by the podcast. And on the podcast, I talk about relationships a lot too. So it kind of just went hand in hand. But yeah, so I started that in January. And then once I posted about it, people were asking for other age groups. And, I actually had a restaurant reach out to me and ask if I wanted to do one there. So yeah, there seems to be a lot of interest.
And I actually spoke to Postmasters about it. And they were interested in doing something. And we even talked about potentially having, based into the price of the ticket, some food provided by them as well.
Yeah.
So, and they actually don't charge for their place. So I don't know if you're paying other venues, but their space is available for anyone who wants to use it.
No, it's basically, at the Tap House, we're not open on Mondays anyway. So it's kind of just extra business for them that way.
Yeah.
So go back again and tell us how you started your podcast. What were the stones you had to put in place in order to start producing a podcast?
Yeah. So I do have some video episodes now. That's what I started doing with this season. So I started in 2022. That was season 1, and then season 2, 3. So now it's on season 4. So I do have videos, which is a whole other thing that you guys are probably very aware of. More time consuming. But I used to coach cheerleading for a very long time. And to save money, I learned how to mix our own music.
Okay.
In a program called Audacity. Which is probably outdated, but whatever. And so I used to do that to make our team's music for the routine. So I already knew how to use that. And I've always liked video editing. And I guess social media. Do you remember Pixo?
No.
Can't say
Okay. So Pixo was you could create your own website. Essentially.
Yeah.
I think junior high is when I really used it. It's no longer a thing, and you can't find the old websites, sadly. But you pick all the colors and you pick all the fonts, and then you have your friendship page, and it's pictures of you and your friends and whatever. So I used to do that all the time. And then another friend of mine, we used to make videos in Windows Movie Maker.
Yeah.
We would remake music videos and just nonsense, but fun.
Little did you know you were getting a great skill as a kid.
Yeah, so we just did that for fun when we were probably 12, 13. So I kind of knew how to edit that stuff anyway. Sure. And so I was like, well, I can just get this Audacity program. And so I did that, and then basically just started recording and editing in that because I already knew how to use it. So that's still what I use.
So do you have guests on every show?
Most.
Or it's just you and
Most times, yeah. It took a while for me to be comfortable just doing an episode by myself because it feels weird just talking to a camera or into a microphone by yourself. But I kind of got over that. So in the 4th season, there's more episodes that are just me.
So when you're doing an episode by yourself, how do you come up with the topic that you want to speak on? And what drives you to want to speak about a certain topic?
Yeah, I think, I just keep it in my notes app again. My notes app is very crucial to my life.
I love it too. I gotta tell you, I love it.
So anytime I think about I want to rant about this or I want to ask someone about this, I'll put it in the notes, and then then when I feel like I want to talk about something or whatever, I just go there and just kind of wing it.
Just when the inspiration comes, you just write it down.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what's an example of some episodes you've done by yourself? Some topics that you spoke on?
Let me see, because there's over 35 episodes now.
And that's between your 4 seasons?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so...
Why didn't we do that? Why didn't we get our notes app out and write down some of the conversations we had? Well, we were drinking, for one.
Yeah, we often talk about the same stuff.
Yeah, I find Ryan and I often speak about ideas. They say there's 3 levels of conversation that people have.
Yeah.
There's people who talk about people who talk about events, and then people who talk about ideas. And we usually fall into the last category.
Trying to talk about ideas. So tell me, what kind of uptake have you had with the podcast? Like, what's been the most exciting part of getting that going now? Was it just the breakthrough of getting it going, releasing your first episode?
Yeah, I think, like, when I record an episode, I just feel almost like it's therapeutic. Like, I kind of just put it all out there and then I edit it and I post it. I'm like, okay, that thought and my opinion on that thought is there, and I can just leave it. But I think the coolest thing has been, like, people who I don't know, maybe just people I follow on social media or whatever, reaching out and saying, like, that they resonated with an episode, or they liked an episode, or they have a suggestion for someone to be on. And then, like, people that I know, kind of like strangers and friends, like, everyone having good feedback on it has been surprising. I was at a family Christmas party back in December, and my, I guess, dad's, like, a family friend. He has 3 daughters who are in their 20s, and he was like, I listened to some of your episodes. I was like, really?
Okay.
And
That's
I
cool.
have, like, a wide range of topics, and he was like, yeah, I thought I could kind of, like, understand my daughters a little bit more. So, like, let me know when you have new episodes. And I was like, I was not expecting this 50-year-old man. Like, mostly when I do episodes, I'm thinking about, like, women and a little bit younger than me.
Right.
So, yeah, I think the coolest thing has been, like, people who listen that I kind of wouldn't expect.
Yeah, the variety
or that I
of
wouldn't
your audience.
have, had some conversations with.
That's super
Anyway?
interesting, though. Really
Yeah.
clever of him as a father and a man to listen to something that to try to understand his daughters a bit better.
Yeah.
I mean, that even opens up a new topic of conversation for your show.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally. And then I kind of had that in mind. Now, that was only December, but yeah, I kind of had that in mind for future episodes. Like, maybe not so much just the young women that I am assuming are listening, but maybe also episodes that, like, the men in their life can relate to or learn a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely some ideas there.
So you need to do a whole episode on helping men understand women.
Could do a whole season of that.
Actually,
Especially with all the relationship stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
and that's one thing that we should probably dive into is what do you think women nowadays in whatever age group are looking for from a man? I mean, you
Yeah.
must see a lot of overlap between your friends and then now the clients that are coming to your dating.
Yep. Yeah. And it's kind of relating to that post that you were just talking about, where, yeah, there might be, like, a high quality man who is getting all these women, but I don't know. It's like, maybe I'll rephrase that.
And then there's the same as well, high quality women as well.
Yeah, I find, well, maybe I'll just talk about my own experiences and, like, my friends. I feel like people want an equal partner. And
No, what do you mean?
so...
I think
Yeah,
I know what
that's-
you mean, but what do you mean?
Yeah, like, well, obviously someone that they see as an equal. But if you think about, like, our parents, for example, like that generation, I feel like women were told, like, you can have it all. And so, like, my mom and my friends' moms, like, they all had jobs. They did all the housework for the most part. No shade to my dad. He did cook supper all the time. But I had a friend whose dad was like, your dad cooks supper every night? Like, that was weird to him because her mom always cooked supper. Right. And she had a job, and she handled all the sports, and she handled all the extracurricular activities, and she organized the play dates. So
I feel like there was a generation or a spot there where we were transitioning from, old-fashioned ways, I'll call them, where, typically, I'm just going to stereotypically put this out there, like, the woman stayed home and cooked and cleaned, took care of the kids, and the man worked, like that old-timey mindset. And then we transitioned into women getting into the workforce, and men actually, I feel, and women, I think, went into the workforce, started picking up some of these roles faster than the transition where men in the household started to take some of the house
family
responsibilities. Thank you. That's a better way to put it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was women, got into the workplace with men, but they were still left the old fashioned view of the woman should still cook, clean, do that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Stuck around longer and couldn't keep up with the transition to where that's now equal.
And it's such an interesting thing that you talk about wanting an equal partner, because it's almost, well, you certainly need that, but it's almost like a complementary partner would be better in some situations. Like having someone who...
Yeah, and I think there's a balance to it. Like, obviously, like you share the housework, you share, finances, whatever. I don't know. I guess like the first thing that comes to mind is all of my girlfriends, and I have a lot of girlfriends, so I'm probably a little bit biased too because I don't have that many close male friends. But I find they are all trying to be very well-rounded, very professional but fun. Like, have you ever seen the monologue in the Barbie movie where it's like you're supposed to be,
I've seen it, but I'm not sure what
you're supposed to be bold, but you're supposed to be quiet, but you're supposed to be professional, but you're supposed to be sexy, but there's all the things. And so I feel like that's what a lot of people are, or a lot of my girlfriends at least, are trying to do, is be all the things.
Right.
And like self-growth. Like there's a lot of like sending the voice notes, like keeping each other updated on our lives and what we're doing to grow and better ourselves. And unfortunately, I find that my single girlfriends, the guys that they're dating are not really like that. And I know those men exist. I found one. But yeah, like dating is very hard because it seems from, again, my experiences and my friends' experiences that, yeah, it's hard to find. It's like...
So when you say the guys aren't like it, you're referring to some of your friends are trying to be as well-rounded as possible, so they're going out there and they're focusing on their own personal growth, they're focusing on improving their lives.
Yeah.
And then the men that they're finding in the dating pool are more focused on what?
It's almost like they're not focused on that. Like, Newfoundland is a small place sometimes, so I know of guys who have dated a certain friend of mine, and then they'll say, oh, I'm working through things. I'm working, I have demons that I need to face alone. I have things that I need to work through. Great. But then, a couple months go by and he's dating another friend of mine and it's the same issues. And same thing, he'll end it because he has these issues that he won't face. And that's just one example, but I think that's generally how it seems to go. It's like a lot of times it tends to be like, you're great, but I don't know what I want, or you're great, but I don't want to do these things for you.
Right.
So, yeah, like I found myself in a relationship like that years ago where like I wanted to do all the things. I wanted to work and grow, and, I had a bunch of jobs and I like to be very social, and he wasn't there. So it's hard to build a relationship when you're not on the same page that way.
Yeah. I think, personal opinion, more people need counseling, and there's a stigma around it. Men and women.
Yeah.
Both of us.
Yep, agreed.
Both sides.
Yeah, it's couples counseling, you mean?
No, not necessarily individually. Okay. Primarily, I think that it's frowned upon. I think that there's, I've got friends and I've talked to about it. I've done some counseling, nothing active right now, but I've certainly done it. Not ashamed to say it. And I think I was skeptical going into it because Jane and I had, like a normal people, many, many years ago, had a rough spot. There was counseling. It was great. I was skeptical going in. Now I'm an advocate for it. I think that, but men have the stigma to go in and talk about things.
Yeah.
It's so funny though, because
hard.
I was the opposite. I was the one who brought it up in a lot of my relationships.
Yeah, you're far more open-minded, I think, in a lot of ways too than the average guy out there.
Yeah. Well, I know that this is a thing, and like a lot of guys do go to therapy, and it's definitely becoming more common. But yeah. I
think that a big problem too is they think that if they're going to therapy or going to counseling, they're admitting that there's something wrong with them. Not necessarily there's anything wrong, but there's just things that you just can't figure out, talk through, or work through yourself. And it could be holding you back, and you might be missing something so simple that can be worked on.
I kind of think of it the same way your friends do, and being more well-rounded. When you have a problem and you're thinking about it from all the different ways you're capable of, just bouncing that idea off somebody else allows you to see it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Right.
And I find you almost don't even need therapy either. I find a lot of like my friends' boyfriends, they like, okay, this is a classic example. Like sometimes you'll ask your boyfriend, your friend and so broke up. What happened? Oh, I don't know. And there's no conversation. But meanwhile, if that happened to my friend, I'm getting a big voice note about it. I'm going back and forth. We're dissecting the whole thing from beginning to end. What happened?
Yeah.
You know? And I find a lot of the guys I know, it's like, oh yeah, we broke up. Oh, sucks, man. And so like you might not even need therapy. You might just need to be okay talking about your feelings with your friends more.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Or quite simply put, men don't think that much into it.
Yeah.
We just don't.
Yeah.
It's more on the surface.
Yeah.
We accept it for what it is.
But then you run into situations like Sarah mentioned with this guy who isn't working on the shit that he needs to work on because he's not talking about it with anybody.
Oh no, there could be that, but sometimes it could be perceived that there's more to it, and the guy's just going simply accepting, yeah, that happened, and move on. It's just, or there could be some underlying issues that need to come out. Sure, but maybe not.
See, my opinion on relationships has changed so much, and in a lot of ways nowadays, I take it upon myself. Every person I date, and even if I choose not to be with them, I see that as a failure on my part, because there's a certain sequence of things that person is looking for in their life, and it's just how much do I want to go step outside of myself and my character and who I am on a day-to-day basis in order to kind of service what that person is looking for. And that's a weird way to phrase it, but what I'm trying to say is everyone has something they want to meet. They have love languages, they have apology languages, and they need to mesh. And if you step too far out of your way because you love the way somebody looks, then you're probably not going to be happy for a long time, especially when their looks fade. Right. So there's so much involved in finding that person that you're mostly happy with. So I want to go back again and hit the things that you did to get your podcast off the ground. And then let's dive a little bit into the key pillars of a relationship and what you think there. So let's see. What did you do to get your podcast available to the public?
So I host on a website called Buzzsprout. Basically, you just upload it there and you put all the episode information and everything. I had to set up Apple for podcasters and Spotify for creators, I think, so you have an account there. It basically, with Buzzsprout, just walks you through adding the RSS feed, so that's like the specific link for your podcast. It actually was fairly easy. Like, I just pay a monthly subscription that is not very much money at all.
Okay.
And so I edit the episodes and then I just upload it there.
And Buzzsprout sends it to all the podcast services for you, except for Apple and maybe one or two others.
Yeah, it sends it automatically. You just kind of have to refresh your account once you actually post it to Buzzsprout. Okay. So then once that's up, I usually do 3 Instagram posts per episode. I like to keep the Instagram looking like there's black and white pictures and then the middle one is colored.
Yeah.
So pretty easy.
Okay. Yeah. So but with Buzzsprout, for anyone who wants to use that service, it's going to distribute it to, is it just audio only? Or do they do video as well?
Yes, just audio.
Okay.
I haven't really looked into the video too much because I only post the videos on Spotify right now. So I'm looking at other options. I might do YouTube. I kind of need to look into that a bit more to see what's the best.
We could walk through that off camera because that's what I do. I only use YouTube and Spotify, and Spotify does do the RSS feed, I believe, but I haven't looked into anything else because for one reason is that YouTube pays the most for monetization, and then Spotify I think is like second or third or somewhere along the lines. Yeah, that's a little bit down further.
So what's the goal for the podcast?
I don't know, and
that's fine. I don't think we truly know.
Well, my goal from the beginning was always to have content for mainstream, the streaming platform that I'm building, and also to, it's a bit of fun. Somebody once said to me at Rogers TV when I did the first TV show, she said, "Mike, you need 3 TV shows to be a producer, or to call yourself a producer," and I was like, okay, well, I need to do a couple more. I might do a couple more in the future. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just for fun, or do you think that
it started out just for fun, but obviously, like, I keep getting more and more of a following, so I'm like, what other places could I take this? So I'm definitely looking into ways that like I could monetize or even just to grow it. Like right now, I just enjoy doing it for fun. And like I said, I feel good after I put out an episode and like putting all my thoughts and opinions or someone else's too. Like if I have a guest and they're talking about their, career or travel or whatever it is, just like putting it in one episode. And
so I think it's so hard right now, maybe just because so I'll just start over. I think it's so hard right now as a content creator in the world that we live in now, where everybody is just pining to be a content creator. It seems like everybody wants to be a YouTuber. Yeah. Everybody's recycling the same sort of ideas for the same sort of content, just trying to get the most follows, to monetize it. And it's a lot of work. It's so hard. And it is so much time put into creating that content. I know Michael puts way more time into creating the content for this show. And just how time consuming it is. And I feel that with this generation coming up now, or current generation, like people in high school, coming out of high school, and they all want to be content creators. So when I'm hiring people, young people, apprentices for my company, I'm finding it harder and harder and harder to find people in their early 20s. And, without any real research, I'm just going to put that out there. I haven't actually dove into this. It feels like everybody just wants to be a YouTuber or a content creator of that age group now. And it's like, what are we doing? We need more people hands-on in jobs. Like, we still live in a physical world. Yeah. And so many people just want to live in a digital world, creating content, creating videos. And there's only a handful of people that are going to be successful. It's almost like winning the lottery, that an algorithm lines up to get you the followers, and then you go viral and you get your big break. What's your take on that now that you've been creating content and putting it out there as a blogger and now with the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, it is a lot and it can be time consuming, but I think my thing was I'm not just like, I find a lot of influencers, creators, YouTubers, whatever, are kind of just talking about their daily lives, or there's a lot of pop culture and a lot of I guess social, categories of podcasts, but I couldn't find anything that, like when I first started it, that was a millennial woman's point of view in Newfoundland. So the Newfoundland part is kind of what made it a little bit distinct. But without that, I don't know. I can see how it would be hard to try and do something to differentiate yourself.
Yeah. I just with your experience with it, the number of followers, do you have the same mindset? You're just hoping that you put out something that is something special that you might not even think is special, but it's going to hit the right people, hit the right algorithm, go viral, and it's going to give you the break and kind of boost the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, that would be lovely.
Yeah, of course.
If I could be Alex Cooper, I would. Right. But yeah, I don't know how realistic that is, but you never know. Yeah. I think all I know right now is that I like doing it, and I feel like I'm supposed to be doing it, and I'm a big believer in things work out the way they're supposed to work out.
Me too.
So I don't know where it will lead me, but I am sure that, and maybe it's just that I've met people from it.
Yeah, that's a huge thing for me as well with this.
Yeah,
podcast.
like if that's all I get out of it, then that's great. Like, I love meeting new people. I love connecting people, obviously.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a great mindset.
Can you talk a little bit about the guests you've had on and some of the topics you discussed?
Yeah. So I'm trying to think like chronologically. A friend of mine, Allison, moved to Calgary as a single woman. So she was talking about the differences she noticed here and there, and just what it was like moving in general away from Newfoundland. She still lives in Calgary. I had my friend Jill, who's a social worker, on. My friend, there's so many. A friend of mine who I used to bartend with at Confusion and Rob Roy, she started a mobile bartending business. So I just had her on to talk about that.
What is a mobile bartending business?
So if you have like a party or a wedding even, you can hire her so she'll come and bartend at a private event.
She bring her own setup with glasses and
As far as I know, I think she had it all set up. Or like bachelorettes, like she'd come and she would make like signature drinks and stuff like that.
Cool. I like that.
Really cool.
Yeah. Yep. What else? I mean, I have to look through because when I'm put on the spot, I can't remember. But
It's okay.
Oh,
I'd never
my
be able to
most-
recall all of our guests right now.
I know. My most recent one was, well, not most recent, but back in May, I did like a Mother's Day series. So, because a lot of my friends are starting to have kids. So, my best friend, who was the first guest on the podcast, she now has a 1-year-old. But I did an episode with her when her daughter was 4 weeks old. So, I did an episode on her of like what it's like to be a 4-week postpartum mom. And then I did one with my friend who was pregnant with her second baby, and her first was a year old. And then I did one with my friend who has 2 under 2. So just like 3 different
under
levels
2.
of early motherhood, and just
I
like
love that.
what
Yeah.
their birth experiences were, and just like how their life is right now. And because as someone who, like, at the time I was single, had no sign of that happening at all, might still not have kids, I don't know, but I was like, I just want to know more about what's going on in your lives, which is kind of why I started the podcast too. I'm like, I have all
Right.
these cool friends doing cool stuff, and we all see influencers on social media and podcasts and whatever. So like, I just want to showcase the real people that I know.
I feel
Right.
like if other people your age, specifically that are going through life at a similar age to you, probably a woman, probably have, you know, their friends are also going, like, sharing the same life experience, would really enjoy your show.
Yeah.
Just to kind of like follow along, and it would probably be therapeutic because we all go through things in life, but you know, we go through similar things, similar challenges when you're in a similar life situation, similar age, gender, and all that kind of stuff. So do you find that you have, if you look at your demographics, is it mostly maybe women your age?
I think so, for the most part, or a little bit younger.
Yeah.
So yeah, it started out as me like showcasing all of that, but as it grew, I realized that I wanted it to be, I always say like big sister advice or best friend energy, because
Yeah.
I don't have any sisters. So
Brothers?
2 brothers,
Yeah.
who are younger. And a lot of my best friends who I grew up with didn't have sisters either. So you kind of have to figure things out for yourself. Like, you don't have an older sister telling you or warning you about certain things.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it is now, is like, that's what I want it to be, is like someone giving a big sister advice.
Right.
So yeah, so I think maybe more so leaning towards people who are younger or people the same age who are, you know, about to go through similar things.
It's interesting. I find our demographic is split almost equally between men and women. I think it's like 51% men, 49%
Okay.
women.
Yeah. We also have different, Sarah's more lifestyle, more business focused,
Yeah.
regardless.
But I
But
love that your niche is, well, it might not be intentionally your niche, but it seems like you're niching into relationships in some way, because now you're
Yeah.
also tying in the dating scene to it as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so you want to go bounce back to the, I want to bounce back to the speed dating.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
in-
exactly where my head was at.
I'm super intrigued. I'm not going to go. I've been in a relationship for nearly 11 years. I'm just going to put that out
Yeah.
there.
She might not like that.
So if Jane's watching, you don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not going, but it's so, I've never done it, and I probably never will do it because of my relationship status. But how, I just find it so interesting, and there must have been a big uptake. Like, how big are these events? How many people do you normally have going?
So event spaces can only hold so many. Normally it's been, well, I've only had 4 events so far, but they keep growing, which is good. So normally it's like 20 people.
Okay.
Yeah, between 13 and the last one I did was 27 people.
Is that ideal? Is there a cap on how many people,
30.
30?
Just for time's sake, like if you have a 5-minute date for
Yeah.
15 couples, basically, like that.
Right.
So
that works out to be a couple hours.
Let's
so.
do the viewers a favor and describe to them what to expect when going to speed dating.
Yeah, because a lot of people reach out and they're nervous,
I can
which
see
I
that.
understand.
Yeah.
But, so you show up, you get a piece of paper with your name on it, and you're assigned what table to start at, and like each round you're assigned a table. I explain this all at the beginning, and there's like time to get a drink and sit down and find your table and everything. And yeah, I just let everyone know every 5 minutes to switch tables.
Yeah.
But there's conversation cards on each table, so question cards. So I've gotten good feedback on those that they're just like helpful for conversation. Or if you do happen to sit down with someone that you don't really want to be talking to, they're kind of helpful to keep a otherwise
Keep going through.
slow conversation going.
I got it.
So there's really nothing to be nervous about because you don't have to think of things to talk about. It's
Yeah.
all right there. Like if you just go blank and can't think of anything.
That's got to be a huge help and a huge icebreaker.
Yeah.
But and maybe you don't have an answer for this, but what's the most cringe thing you've seen of someone showing up and like trying to impress somebody?
So I will say that a lot of people think that it's like desperate people, or people like really desperate for a relationship, or really awkward, or people who like can't find relationships. I don't think that's what it is at all. I think it's people who are busy. And for lack of a better word, like everyone has been very like normal. Like there hasn't been...
Haven't had a moment where this guy came in, like, what is he wearing? And
not really.
Nothing
like,
cringy?
There's been some events where there's like, you know, people who may seem a little bit more awkward or whatever, but for the most part, like everyone's like nervous, but they're also excited. And at the end, most people come up and like tell me how like happy they were that they did it. So,
yeah, I can see that. I mean, if I were to be single right now and I wanted to date, I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah. And the apps, not everyone's on the apps is the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I'm guilty of this. Like, I thought that I knew everybody in this province. I was like, I'm going to have to move if I ever want to find a partner. I had accepted that I probably wouldn't find a partner because I know all the friend groups. I've gone through the apps. I've gone through, I think it's Hinge, where it's like, you've exhausted all options in your area. Do you want to refresh? Like, I've been there.
Yeah.
So you feel like you know everybody. And when I met my partner back in May, I was like, I didn't know that you existed.
Right.
And I didn't know his friend group. And this is a whole other group of people that I did not know. So I was kind of proved wrong there. And everyone who's been coming to the speed dating, I know maybe one or two people, but most people are strangers. So I'm proving myself wrong again. Like, there's a whole group of people out there who aren't on the apps and who might not, like, I'm very social. I go, like, I'm out a lot, but there's people who don't go downtown every weekend or aren't that social. And if you're not that person and you're not on the apps, how are you meeting people?
That's right. Yeah.
I think the older you get, the less you probably go downtown. It's just, I lost my interest a long time ago.
Really long time ago.
Geez, I had a question and I lost you.
Let's talk a little bit about the problems with dating apps nowadays. So you mentioned there's a lot of people not on them. Why do you think people aren't using the dating apps?
I think a lot of people, you end up having a conversation that never really leads into anything. So if you don't actually set a date early on, then you kind of just have small talk, and that's also the reason why I started speed dating. It's hard to get a vibe for who someone is from a couple messages.
Absolutely.
So I remember...
And that pressure for that opening line.
Yeah, right?
It's huge.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell tone. Like, it's hard to get that from a message like that. But yeah, like with speed dating, I remember that, like, I went on a Hinge date once, and I remember sitting down for drinks and thinking, like, I'm not really that into this, like, after a few minutes of conversation. And I remember thinking, like, would recommend to a friend. Like, he seems great and everything, but I'm not feeling this. And then you kind of feel bad because, you know, you agreed to, like, a dinner date or whatever. Right. So this is, like, a thing where you only have to talk for 5 minutes. You can kind of feel if there's an attraction or not. And it's just speedy. And if there's not, then it's like, okay, thanks.
Right.
And you move on.
5 minutes, you're done.
Yeah.
You're out of there.
And that's what I liked about speed dating when I attended that one event. And the thing I don't like about the apps is that I think we're too easily writing people off. Like, if somebody says, if you don't like pineapple on your pizza, then it's a deal breaker.
Totally.
Like, all that is so surface level.
Totally.
Like, we need to get to the point where, like, would you sign a prenup? Do you have kids? Like, these more important relationship questions.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true.
Man, would you build some relationships?
See, that's the thing. It's to the point, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are people who date for a long time and then they realize that one wants kids, one doesn't. Or things like that, or like someone wants to move and the other person is like, I'm never leaving here. So to get that out early is
that
kind of
one
good.
happened to me in my 20s. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I wasn't really eager. I was like starting a business, ingraining myself here. My partner at the time, she's like, I'm leaving. And she did. That's kind of what happened. So I was going to ask you though about the speed dating. You've only done straight singles? Male and female? So any plans for doing...
Definitely.
You know, gay, lesbian, so on?
Yeah, for sure. I've had a friend of mine, her coworker, I think she's over 50. she was like, does she have anything for a woman like me over 50? And she's a lesbian. And I was like, yes, I want to do that. I reached out to a few people because I think it would be good to include queer people in doing an event like that. Or, I mean, I think I could probably use the advice for like how best to do that. But I definitely do want to do that, and there is interest there. So yeah, definitely looking into that. And even just friendship events too.
So let's talk a little bit about what you personally think are some of the more important things in a relationship. What makes a relationship last?
That's great, because this is going to influence what you put on those cards, because those conversations that you're going to prompt to bring up are probably key to.
Well, I don't know. I think they're pretty simple questions to keep a conversation going. But I'm more curious about what are the pillars of a relationship. I mean, I know my own personal pillars, and I won't mention them because I don't want to kind of taint to what you're about to say. But what's important for you in a relationship? Yeah,
the first thing that comes to mind is, especially like as adults, like I just turned 30, so, and I was single a lot up until now. So I'm kind of established in who I am, what I like. I'm pretty comfortable with myself. Same thing with my partner. So I remember I was in Italy this past summer, and there was this old married couple. We were drinking a lot of wine, and they were next to us, like on this like sidewalk restaurant. And I had I guess we had been dating for a couple months. But I was with my girlfriends on this trip. So I asked this older couple, because they were asking us where we were from, and we were just having some small talk. I was like, I asked them, like, how'd you end up together for so long? And she was like, you can't change who someone is. A lot of people go into relationships and, they don't like this little thing or they don't like that little thing. And I think we're all kind of guilty of it. Like, people talk about icks. But she's like, the things... Like, he needs to have his own life, and you need to have your own life. And that's why it's good when you come together. So that's, like, the first thing that comes to mind is, like, and in my own relationship now. I think, like I said, I'm a very social person. There are a lot of people who get into relationships, and they fall off the face of the earth, and you don't see them again. And, they might not check in with their friends as much or whatever. But I still go out. I like to go out for a drink. I like to go out for a drink with my friends. I like to go out for a drink with him. So if he were to say, oh, I don't want you going out so much or something, I don't think that would be healthy for either one of us.
No. Right.
And same with him. Like, he has a lot of friend groups. He needs, to keep living the life that he was living before he met me. It's just that now we are together and,
I think that is crucial.
Absolutely.
And after 11 years, Jay and I have been together. That's what we kind of faced in, however many years ago it was. I was talking earlier about the counseling and stuff that we went through. Big part of it was earlier on in the relationship, and we were kind of like butting heads about that, and we were holding each other back. And then the counseling actually helped us reveal exactly what you're talking about. So this is why I'm bringing it up. Is she said to James, like, he needs to do his things. You got to be cool with that. And then also, she has to do hers, and I have to be okay with that. It's so crucial to be okay with who you are, and accepting who the other person is.
And also, like, respecting boundaries and all that. Like, I'm not going to go out to
of
a house party late at night like I probably did before, right? Like, there's a level of, like, respect where, I don't know, I think a level of trust. Like, I'm still going to go out and do the things I always did, but I'm coming home to you. And because of that, and because we're so open, like, there has not been any trust issues whatsoever. So I think those two, like, go hand in hand.
Yeah, of course. If your life before was going out and being promiscuous or
3 a.m. at the club.
Okay, that you probably can't do that. But I'm talking about having your own hobbies.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely, you need that. That reminds me of a saying. I think it goes along the lines of, a woman will date a man hoping he'll change, and a man will date a woman hoping she never will. And both are impossible, because as we age, we grow. And ideally, you want to find someone you can grow with, and then support them as they grow in the relationship. And that's becoming, I think, something that's extremely important.
Yeah. Well, I think another thing, too, is, like, with the podcast, I feel like maybe some people wouldn't like that I do that, or might have, I don't know. I don't think that there's anything to have a problem with, but some people might be like, oh, that's kind of cringy. Like I've had...
That you put your opinions out there, you mean?
Kind of, yeah. Like I had a friend who, years ago, who didn't really support the idea and thought that it would be causing drama or something. But that's another thing, is like he's never made me feel any kind of way about anything that I do. He's only been supportive. So I think having your own life and supporting that, not only not tolerating it, but supporting it is another thing.
So let's shift gears a bit, if you don't mind. We'll talk about the business side of the speed dating, because I don't think, again, we talked about content creation. The podcast is probably not really generating any revenue. If it is, it's probably not a whole lot, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Just speaking from our experience with this, it
Not
is
yet.
what it is. Yeah, it is. That's the whole world of content creating. When you're starting off, you're really not making anything. What about the speed dating? So you sell tickets for that.
Yep.
You've monetized it.
Yeah, so I do make a bit of money with each event.
Yeah.
And there is work that goes into it. So like I do have to print off all the sheets and send out like the reminder emails and do the whole Instagram, Facebook marketing for it, because that's how people need to find out about it. Making the event on Eventbrite and all that. And then of course after each event, actually going home, doing up all the matches and sending out those emails.
Right.
So.
Yeah, have anybody ever say to you, well, all you do is send in some invites, show up and put some cards, some questions on the tables for some conversation points. Why does it cost so much? Have ever anybody like tear it down?
No. Yes and no. So I've had some friends who, because I started out charging $35, because the events that my friends had gone to, that's what it was, and that included a drink. So it kind of makes sense if you go to a bar, like you have cover to get in.
Yeah.
And then that's just for entering the building.
Yeah.
If someone else wants to get up in front of a bunch of people and talk and organize everything the way that I do and keep it consistent with the social media and the events, they can do that. But someone also gave me feedback that, actually a few people have given me feedback, especially in the older group. I had a 40 to 55. A few people said, like, oh, people have tried to do this, but it never stuck. So I don't know why that is. That's probably, I don't know when that was either, but.
I also found it funny how one person could try something and completely fail, and another person can almost do something identical, and something as simple as the timing change, the environment change, the economy change, something external changed, and they've taken it and made it huge.
I think it's great
Well, that's
timing.
business.
Yeah, that's
Like,
exactly business.
Absolutely. I think it's great timing for the speed dating because I think people are fed up with the dating apps, and now so much time has passed since the pandemic. People are still eager to get out and meet people face to face, and you can't truly get a sense for somebody. And even after 5 minutes, you can't get a sense for somebody.
No.
You can be in a whole relationship with somebody for years and not fully see their whole character.
Totally.
But it's probably more effective 5 minutes face to face than
100%.
a dating app.
100%.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I'll give you an example. I went and I matched with a lady, and I remembered that I actually matched with them on a dating app years before, and nothing ever came from it. So, I mean, my point is trying to be.
Maybe that's a sign from the universe.
There you go. Soulmate, Michael.
No, but my point is you're much more receptive to somebody when they're actually in front of you, and they've taken the time and they're putting in the effort.
Yeah. Well, okay, so this is the thing, too, with the ticket charge. I changed it to now be $20. So that kind of covers the, like, my cost for it and the materials, like printing everything out and whatever. I forget what I was just going to say.
Why you charge the amount you're charging?
Oh, yes. So, so now it's $20 and whatever. But since I've lowered it, I've had other people say you should make it higher because they want people who are serious about it.
Oh, interesting.
So if it was a free event, people are worried that, people are just going to go and not take it seriously. Which I think it would be a lot of work to go do speed dating to just like find a hookup or, whatever. But
honestly, I think between $35 and $40, and even $45 is not asking too much for what you're getting for the experience of it. I don't think it's too much.
Yeah, and I'm still kind of playing around with it, like to figure out what makes more sense. And I have used some like ads on Instagram to kind of promote it. So no, that wasn't very expensive. But just things like that, like looking into other ways to market it. Because I think there's still a lot of people who are still finding out about it and who don't know about it.
Absolutely.
So looking into things like that obviously would take more money to do.
It could get, when I came away from that event, I came away with, as my software developer brain does, I'm like, okay, there's so many things I liked about this and there's so many things I didn't like about it.
Yeah.
And so what did I like and what didn't I like? So my brain immediately went to work. It was like, well, really the group of people that I met with, they wouldn't be in what I would consider somebody who I would want to be in a long-term relationship with. They were lovely people.
Right.
And I had great conversations with all of them. But there's a me section of my profile, and then there's ideally the people I think might be a good fit for me.
Right.
And if we can get people a little bit closer to who they want to be chatting with, I think it'll be more successful. I mean, you're already saying that half the people are getting at least one match, which is great.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that. That's amazing.
I know. Yeah, that was surprising. I wasn't expecting that either.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you're noticing between the different age groups? I mean, you do get a chance to slightly eavesdrop. Not that you're intentionally doing that, but...
Yeah, I did 25 to 35, and then the most recent one I did that had 27 people was 28 to 38. So I've kind of seen that age group the most. 30 to 40 and then 40 to 55. I don't know. I find 40 to 55, they seemed like they were at speed dating, if that makes sense. Like
What do you mean?
They were asking like if you see a first date in a TV show, that's how it seemed.
Okay.
They're asking, they seem a little bit professional. They are like, it's like typical questions like, so what do you do? Like, what do you like to do on the weekends, you know?
I'll be honest, what else are you supposed to ask?
Well, I mean, some of the question cards, like one of them is if you won $1 million today, what would you do? And so like that's kind of a sneaky way to like see how people are with finances.
Yeah.
Because if someone said like, oh, I'd go to Vegas and blow it all.
Right.
You know, potential red flag.
Just leave now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so there's questions like that are supposed to, you know.
How did you come up with these questions? I mean, I might be jumping a little bit all over the place, but so these aren't just like something you just, there's been strategy behind them.
Some of them, yeah.
I like that.
Well, I think that one obviously is like kind of leaning towards finances, but other ones are just, like one is what's a typical weekend? Because how often on dating apps do people say they like to hike?
Oh my God.
Do
it's
they
like
hike
the most
every
popular
weekend?
thing.
No,
Right?
they don't.
Nobody hikes.
So a typical weekend is probably like, you might go to like a workout class, you probably go out for dinner with a friend, you probably visit your parents, you know, like asking a more detailed question like that, as opposed to like, what are your hobbies?
Yeah.
Yeah, you get more thoughtful answers that way and like more into who someone actually is.
For sure.
So now you're doing different age brackets between 20 and 30, 30, 40, 40, 50. You had one that was 28 to
28
30.
to 38, yeah.
And why skew them in that way?
I guess just to get people who are on the cusp. Because like if you're 35, then you're the oldest one at the 25 to 35, but you're the youngest one at the 35 to, you know, like you might want a bit older and younger.
That's got to be challenging to get the age demographic.
I'm trying to
down.
figure out like the.
Well, because I mean,
But I think switching it up has been good.
Yeah, because I mean, you could do an event for people that are 28 to 38, but and then 39 to 48, like in 10-year increments. But then you could also do something between 25 and 35, because I mean,
Right.
you got someone who's 38, 39, or 40. You're still only a couple of years apart. That could be a great match.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then what if
There's more to it. There's more to it that we can do to give someone a sense for who they're actually meeting up with. And also, too, we can just do 28 to 38 plus or minus 2 years.
Yeah, and I do usually say, like, if you're a year or two outside, you can still come. Like, there's nothing stopping you from
It's not
buying.
strict on the age.
No.
and then
No,
you
as
might,
long as you're honest about it.
Right.
Yeah.
and then you might have women and or men who want to date someone 10 years older than them.
Right, yeah.
Or
that
15
too.
years older than them, like just feel like that. So it's got to be challenging to be like, okay, what demographic? Where do I cap it? Like, how strict do I be about the age that I'm letting in here?
Yeah, and
Is that challenging?
I did like an Instagram story, just like a question box asking like what age group should I do next. So I was kind of looking at that, and a few people did say 28 to 38. So I was like, okay, I'll try that one, which worked out well. And so I noted all the responses. So I think I'll kind of refer to that when I make future ones.
Yeah, that's good. Ask your customers what they want.
And a lot of people did respond. I probably got like 40 responses. There was a few people who wanted a like 19-year-old, like 19, 21. Someone said 18, but the locations are 19 plus, so I can't do that. But I'm thinking about doing like a 19 to 25 maybe.
Okay.
Or something like that. It seems like there's some interest.
And
I don't know. I won't know until I test it. Like I can have all these people ask for it, but until I actually do.
Thing, like I hate boxing in a relationship by age because you could have somebody who's 22 and 23 married with kids because they could be religious, and that could be something that their family's done for generations.
Yeah. I kind of want to go, not to participate. To watch.
Just watch.
I know.
And people have asked that. Can I come to just watch? And I'm like, no.
I really wanted to get a sense for what this is because I thought this would be a great idea years ago.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't in me at the time to ever organize anything like that. So I love that you've done it. You've taken action and you've really done that. Actually, on that note, let's ask you.
Yeah.
Sarah, we have a recurring segment on the show where we ask our guests the actionable takeaway. Is there anything that comes to mind for you?
Yeah. Well, I know that you do this, so I was thinking about it. I know a lot of people don't like making lists or writing things down, but I have kept an agenda every year since I was 12, since grade 7. And so I like write down everything. I use my notes app for everything. Like anything I think of, I have a note about it. So I think my main one, even if you don't like writing lists or writing things out, I guess you can make a mental list, but it's more fun to write it out. And I do this at the beginning of every year. And you don't have to do it for all sections of your life, but you can just do it for, like, say if you want to do career or relationships or whatever. But I write down, like, my love life, my friendships, my career, my fitness, my travel plans, my finances, whatever. I write down all of that. I write down the things I like, the things I don't like, the things that I want to change, and then that kind of helps me do up my goals for the year. And I think people stay in unhappy relationships, or they stay in jobs that they don't like, or even something as simple as, like, for example, during COVID, I was like looking for good things, as we all were. And I was like, what's something I can do? And I was like, I hate my room. I don't like the color. I did this, like I painted this years and years ago. I don't like the layout. I want more white. I want it to be brighter. And so that was something I was going to change. So a few months later, I like painted it a brighter color. I have a sun catcher on the window and it's all like bright and pretty now. And so even like changing something like that changes my mood every day when I wake up. But yeah, for like career, for finances, whatever. Like I was in a job a few years ago that I was not happy in. I was very stressed, and I'm not a stressed person regularly, but I realized that this job was making me stressed. And I ended up quitting and traveling for a bit. And obviously not everyone is able to do that depending, but I knew I hated this job and I knew I wanted something else and I didn't know what that was. But in writing down all my goals and whatnot, I was like, this is something that I need to change.
Right.
And so I have a nice room and I am in a job that I am more like aligned with. It's a company that cares a lot about climate change, which is, I care about the environment. So like changing things like that line up with what you want your life to be. And it can be super simple things, but I feel a lot better in this job. And because I feel a lot better in that job, then I'm able to podcast and I'm able to do, like the speed dating, like find other things that fill me up.
So do you feel like your lists have helped you create and manifest the life that you've been wanting to live?
Yeah. So that's essentially what manifesting is you write stuff down, you think about it. And I feel like a lot of business people do this regularly. They just don't call it manifestation because people think it sounds silly.
Right.
But when you manifest things, you write it down or you make like a vision board and you have pictures of, how you want your year to look or how you want your job to look or whatever. And when you do that, you're essentially manifesting. But the reason that it works is because when you write it out, it's in your mind. And so when you go about your day and you're making decisions, that's in the back of your mind.
Absolutely.
So if you're thinking like, I want to change my job, if you don't write it out or you're not thinking about it, you're just going to keep going and you are probably more likely to be unhappy. Same thing with a relationship. Like you need to make the change.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I love that you write out the things you don't like because I'm a big fan of lists as well. I do yearly planning and I even break it down to my goals. Every goal that I have, I break that down into further actionable steps. But I don't usually write down things I'm unhappy with. And I think that's important. And I think it can help people get unstuck and start changing something that they're not striving for, but looking to change in another way.
Yeah. And when you're writing down the good things, like that's just practicing gratitude. And, you know, when you think about the positive things in your life, you're obviously happier. But if you can take that and the things that you don't like and just improve them, then like I'm so much happier since I made those changes.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that tonight now. I can already start imagining.
I usually do it at the beginning of the year, like beginning of a new year, and then my birthday's in September. And that was always back to school time, so I would always do that with like a new school year, but now I just do it for my birth year. So twice a year, you kind of check in.
So just to stay away from that, I just want to go back to something else you said about your job. I feel like on this podcast particularly, we have focused a lot on people that are in employment positions and want to become entrepreneurs and want to get away from the job. And I was just listening to you explain all that, and you mentioned about your job, but you never mentioned, anything about wanting to leave your job to be an entrepreneur. You're quite content being having a good job, a job that you like, a job that doesn't stress you out, and gives you the opportunity to have what I'll call side hustles.
Right.
And be an entrepreneur. So you have a balance going on where you have, I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, you have any intention on giving up a full-time job.
No.
And you're happy just having it all.
Yeah. I think that's it. I've always had a lot of jobs, and I've always wanted to do a lot of things. Like, I remember, like, as a young teenager, my mom would always say, you can't do it all. And I'd be like, I can try.
Yeah.
I can do it. I can take on as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And I'll use my planner and schedule everything. But no, like, I'm in a very good job. And I think that's a key piece of it too, is I have a job where it's very flexible. It's very flexible with time off, very flexible with your schedule. It's not 9 to 5. I can do 10 to 6. I do 3 to 11 sometimes because I'm in customer support. So I know that's not an option for everyone, but having a main job that is so flexible really helps. It's just work-life balance, right?
Yeah.
My whole life is not work. If I had to work like 9 to 5 every single day, that would kind of limit other things. So
let me ask you this now, looking a little bit forward into the future. Where are you hoping the podcast goes, and where are you hoping speed dating goes? And particularly, how many events do you think you could manage at one time, just on your own?
Yeah. So the podcast, I don't know. I've thought about this. The podcast, I definitely want to do more video, like, and I think one of the big reasons I didn't talk about, but one of the big reasons that I started it is because I have a lot of podcasts that I watch and listen to, and that like inspires me or makes me feel good or validated or whatever. So like, I kind of want to be that. And like I said, if it's just like making relationships that way, then I'll probably be okay with it. Obviously, I would love to have a talk show.
Oh yeah,
I would love to do it.
We'll talk in the future.
You know, or like, or like the people whose podcasts I watch. Like, I would love to do that. Like, I would love to do that full time. Obviously, it's fun as much as it is work. With the speed dating, there have been people in Corner Brook reaching out, and like other cities. So, because not everyone is in St. John's. And there's a restaurant in Bay Bulls that I mentioned reached out. So there's interest in other places, which I would love to do. But then do I have the time to actually do that? Maybe I need to find someone out in Corner Brook or out in Gander who want to.
Would you ever,
Right
now you're using a bar. Which one is it again?
The Post Tapas in Torbay, and then Wooden Walls downtown. So
you're using two different venues. I'm assuming they've got reasonable capacities. Would you ever think about renting out a gymnasium, filling it full of tables?
The Delta Ballroom.
And doing like a massive speeding event? Like, is that something you aspire to do? Something like
that would be so
1,000 person speeding event.
The coolest thing about that is then we're starting to break down the barriers, and not so much the barriers, but the age ranges, and then personality types. Getting a large group of people together, but then how do you organize it in a reasonable time?
It's definitely an idea, and I think it could work because right now, like, I don't really vet the people. You know, like, I'm not trying to. I mean, I'm trying to play matchmaker, but I'm not really going with compatibility like we kind of talked about. So I think if I was going to do something on that large of a scale, you would have to fill out some kind of form or something, and then maybe like group people together based on
Right.
Yeah.
those things.
And that's where I was thinking,
Yeah.
even with the smaller event. So I'll continue to work on it, and I love your feedback on it. So as I get more through it on what I think are some of the key pillars, and I do have love languages in there, I do have apology languages in there,
Right.
I do have sexual preferences and gender orientations, and I'm going pretty deep on the individual and then their ideal match.
Right.
But then I'm sure you're going to have a whole ton of suggestions that I haven't even considered.
Yeah. No, I think that covers a lot. I think like morals and values, like that's another thing that I could have mentioned earlier, like with my friends dating, is that people don't really talk about that early on. So yeah, like how do you think gender roles should be in your relationship? And that was something I talked about on the Mother's Day episodes too, like my friends and how, how their relationships kind of change when someone's working, someone's not, and whatever. But yeah, there's so many categories that you can go into, but I think those are the main ones.
There's a lot of big ones. One big one for me is money philosophy, like whether, and this is like the very surface level, is whether you're a saver, spender, or investor. But then it goes so much deeper. Like, are you willing to share bank accounts? Do you have one bank account for the family, or do you have your own individual bank accounts?
Right.
There's so many things when you're thinking about a more serious relationship.
Yeah, and some people are really opinionated on that too. Like, you mentioned prenups earlier. Like, some people are like, would never sign one, wouldn't consider it. Some people think it's so bad. But like, me and my partner met and we talked about it, and we're both like, yeah, why wouldn't we want to protect each other?
Yeah.
So like, some people are very on the same page, whereas if one of us was very against it, it probably would have caused some kind of a conversation.
Right, and even with the words you used, I'm not sure if I'm interpreting it the right way, because a prenup actually protects both people.
Yeah.
But then choosing not to sign one, you could look at it as looking out for each person, because you're sharing assets.
Yep.
So even conversation, and that's one thing I learned from when I separated from my daughter's mother, is you might think you understand what someone is saying, but unless you dive in again and say, is this what you're saying? And a lot of times when I've done that, it hasn't been what they were trying to communicate at all. So the conversation can go so deep, and I mean, we're only really talking about surface level stuff when you're initially dating somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be a little heavy for the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think lifestyle is a big thing. Like like I said, I was single for most of my 20s, and I've watched a lot of my friends in like long-term relationships, and obviously that makes me think about like the things about their relationships that I want. And so many of my friends are in these relationships where they like to do the same things. Like they, like my best friend Leslie and her husband, like they like going to the same concerts. They both like going to hockey games. That's like a big part of their life. So if you're someone who wants to go to a hockey game every weekend and you're with someone who hates it, like it might sound simple, but like that could cause a big issue later on if you don't like to do the same things. And obviously relationships can work when you don't like to do all the same things. You need to have your own things.
Right.
But I think that's probably like the biggest thing that I notice with my friends in their long-term successful relationships is like they really do just enjoy each other's company, and they like to do the same things with each other.
What?
I got a question.
I know, but it sounds so simple, but
Right.
there are people like I had a friend who dated someone who didn't like to go out, I don't just mean like out drinking or anything, but like a shower, like a bridal shower kind of thing, like wasn't their thing, and like going out and socializing, they just really wanted to stay home. And I have other friends whose partners just wanted to stay in and play video games, and they didn't want to, be around their friends and family. And like, for some people that might not be important, but for some people it is really important that you want to build relationships with their friends and family.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I got a question now. So for people who want to attend speed dating, what would you suggest they focus on for those 5 minutes? Say they see someone, they're physically attracted, which is a huge thing right off the bat. So then what do they talk about for the 5 minutes in order to get the most bang for their buck?
yeah, I mean, that's what I'm still trying to figure out.
I know, and I think that's what everyone...
I think the conversation cards definitely help. Well, like I said, one of the questions is, what's a typical weekend? One was, what was the last concert that you've been to? So I actually overheard a conversation at one of the events, and someone used the card, like, what was the last concert you went to? And they said whatever it was. She's like, I really loved it. And the guy was like, yeah, I don't really like concerts. Like, I don't really like, but I don't like loud music. And she was like, oh, the music in here, like, is this too loud for you? And he was like, yeah, like, this probably wouldn't be my choice or whatever. And so this is someone who loves going out to live music and loud concerts, and this other person doesn't, which again seems like a small thing, but
yeah, it could be.
That could be an issue. If you're someone who blasts music every time you're getting ready, like I do, and your partner hates it, that could be a source of,
for sure. So let's take that now and flip it around. And back to me, I'm just like, give me the dirt. Like, what's cringy? What's not to ask? What? And have you heard anybody? Have you heard anybody bring up things? It's like, like just in overhearing, not necessarily eavesdropping, but you're in the room, and have you thought to yourself, that person?
In the first 5 minutes, do you want to get married? Would you sign up for
not
of that?
Really. No, like it's actually gone very well so far. Like I haven't heard.
Give me something
like
here. Come on.
I don't know.
I'm digging. Like,
but that's the thing. People are more polite in person as opposed to online. They feel a little bit anonymous.
Yeah, I would say, like, I guess to answer your first question, like, and maybe we learned this from like our past relationships, like what I was just talking about. Like I was with someone who didn't really care to be around my friends or family, so I knew that if I was ever to get in a relationship, that would have to be a big thing. Like if you don't want to come to my mom's retirement party, or you don't want to come to, my niece's birthday, I'm not gonna like that. Like I would want my partner to be there because I want to be there for his things like that.
Right. So you want a partner who's involved. Yeah.
So I think just think about what you want in a relationship, like those types of things, and maybe try and work that into conversation. And I mean, it's kind of hard because is someone going to sit there and say like, oh, I hate going to children's birthday parties? Like, I don't know.
I think the
way they answer it might be telling to how they actually...
We don't need to ask you, like, going to children's birthday parties.
Yeah.
Nobody likes going to children's birthday parties.
Okay, that's true. Bad example. But, like, coming to a family function or something.
I think the first 5 minutes should be, is this worth a second date? I think that's the main thing you're taking away from it.
Yeah. And that's basically the point. So, like, at the end, and I don't think I finished explaining how, like, the end process works. So... every person, you write down everyone's name that you've spoken to, and you clearly write yes or no. Some people don't write it so clearly, so I have to say, like, please write a clear yes or no. So, like, if we're on a speed date right now and I say yes and you say yes, then at the end, we'll both get an email. You'll get an email with my number, and I'll get one with yours. So that means that counts as, like, a match.
Okay, and it also shelters somebody from being rejected. Where someone says yes, the other says no.
Yeah. That's a big part, too, that I should talk about more often, is you don't have to shut someone down. So there's not really any ghosting. It's just like, sorry, you didn't have any matches. And there's no awkwardness, and you don't have to try and come up with a text for how to end things or say that you don't want to see them again.
Yeah, that's going to be huge. I never even thought about that.
I don't think about that too much, but that is a big part of it, too.
Yeah, because it's hard to say no to somebody when you're face-to-face.
Yeah.
But that's also a skill people need to learn. Like, that's going to help you in a relationship.
That's true, too.
No, it doesn't change the fact that people are bad at saying no.
Right.
At least I think people are bad at saying both men and women. Because when you're face-to-face with somebody, you don't instinctively want to disappoint the other person that you're in a room with. That's why you get stuck into bad conversations with people all the time, which is great while it's 5 minutes.
Or, like, long, dragged-out dates.
It just won't end, and it's just hell,
Yeah.
This is over quick, and you don't have to say no. Or yes, that's got to be appealing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty easy. Like, you can go in and in 2 hours meet 15 people, and even if you say no to all of them, it probably... That's the thing, too, is, like, there's a benefit if you don't match with someone. So you learn a little bit more about what you don't want, maybe. Maybe you met some people who you're like, oh, I really like that about them, or, whatever. And something that I've been saying, too, because, like I said, I'm a big believer that, like, we all have a life path, and there's people we're supposed to meet and things we're supposed to do. And, like, I was, like, a very big How I Met Your Mother fan. Like, all the little things that led him to meeting his wife. Like,
right.
I never finished that show.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh, my God. Yeah, you have to.
At the end of it, does he finally meet her?
Like, we're not going to spoil it for everyone.
Yeah, no.
Oh, come on. The show is old enough.
There's
spoiler alert.
I'm very opinionated about the final episode. But, like, it's a good ending. But it's all the little things that like, if he didn't date that one girl who had that roommate who went to that party, like, it's all these things that led him to meeting her. So even if you don't get a match, you're still learning things about what you want or don't want, and, like, you're still growing yourself, if that makes sense.
I mean, it's practice to get out and meet with people. For a lot of people that I seen at the event,
it's practice.
It didn't look like a lot of people were used to going out.
Yeah.
Just from the group that I had seen.
Yeah.
Like
So
they were a bit more quiet, a bit more
totally.
closed
Yeah. There
off.
was some people who were a bit more shy.
Props to them for actually doing it.
Totally. Yeah. But so yeah, like you're still in your own like self-growth journey, but you could meet someone at speed dating and maybe not match, but maybe you run into them again and they have a friend with them and then you really hit it off with a friend, or like maybe you become like networked in your career and then they kind of introduce you to someone else. So just because you don't have a match at one of the events doesn't mean that it's not going to lead you to meeting someone later on. Right?
Absolutely.
And like we met because you attended one of the events. So now we're doing this because of it. So it might not lead to a romantic relationship, but could lead you to other things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
I met the guys who own Wooden Walls there, and they're lovely. I had no idea there was a local vodka company here.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Nope, didn't either. Wow. Yeah, no, it's definitely good to just get out. I mean, now we're just talking about the business side where you're networking.
Yeah.
Not really business if you're kind of like getting it
Personal
socializing.
networking.
Personal networking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good for that as well. It's got to be beneficial. Again, I'm trying to relate this to the only way I can, and trying to imagine myself in a situation of being single at late 30s and having been in a relationship for so long. I wouldn't know where to start, what to do, you know. It's
and I get that from my friends in long-term relationships. Like, oh, I could never date today. They all say that.
Oh,
I'm like, well,
I say that.
It wasn't fun all the time, but
Yeah.
you have no other choice. So
No, I think it's good to give that there's an option.
well,
for
you do
now.
have a choice. You can be single and
Right.
focus on that. But
Yeah, it's fun
Well,
too.
that alludes to what you were talking about earlier about people choosing to stay in a relationship even though they might not be happy. They just don't want to be single.
Yeah.
So then why are you
Yes.
actually in that relationship?
yeah, totally. It is better to be single. And I say this as someone who's like trying to be a matchmaker and in a very happy relationship. It is better to be single than to be in the wrong relationship.
100%.
I will spread that until the day I die. Like that is just
You know what would be an interesting idea, and take what you will from it. I never push things on people, but if you did a big enough event, sold enough tickets, had enough revenue from it, there could be like maybe you did like a consolation prize, like a door prize, and the door prize is so and so many sessions, counseling sessions, coupling sessions, or something like that. That'd be hilarious.
we do give out gift cards for the Tap House and Wooden Walls.
Yeah, but
but
not booze.
Not with therapy attached.
Not to drown your sorrows in alcohol, but to actually give away counseling.
And actually, before we
partner with but you could partner with a company that does that, like or a counselor or someone to actually put that together and give it out, just to emphasize the importance of mental health in relationships.
Well, I did an episode with Allison, who's a co-owner of the Calm Place, which is
never heard of it.
Like it's they do therapy and counseling for the most part. Yeah, and she's in her 30s, I think. So, yeah, and it's successful as far as I know.
Yeah, but I think it's a great idea. I mean, doesn't mean you need to think it's a good idea, but I do think it's a good idea to promote
absolutely
mental health and importance and openness about that.
I'm curious now, how soon do you think is too soon to start couples therapy?
Well, after the first 5 minutes, you win the prize, you go right in there.
Yeah. Yeah. With your
after-
very first, if you get a match and I give you the contact information, here's your therapist's name.
Yeah, right after the get-go, it's mandatory.
Yeah.
If you match up with this event, it's mandatory.
I don't think there's any time that's too early.
I would think the earlier the better, because then you're gonna almost speed up.
I wonder though if
You probably get to some things almost like speed dating. Like you probably get to some more important things. Like get it out of the way early.
Sooner, save some time.
Yeah.
Don't waste 5 years to find out that.
new addition to speed dating. We'll have a counselor at every table.
Yeah.
See, I'm onto something. Here.
No, you are, because Love is Blind.
Yeah.
So this season, a lot of the women said no to the men. And someone said, like, the next season should be the guys going in, and instead of a woman, it's just a therapist on the other side of the wall.
Absolutely.
Like someone did pitch a similar idea. There's probably some ideas there.
Yep. Anyway,
Yeah.
what else do you want to talk about? I think I'm kind of tapped for.
I think
for
I'd
right
love
now.
to have Sarah back after we've done, or she's done a few more of these events and has plans to do maybe a larger event. We'll stay in touch, of course, and talk more about what I think I could contribute, if anything, to matching people from a tech perspective.
Yeah. No, I think it'd be really cool. I think it's a great idea. Late 20s when I was single, I probably would have done this. Yeah. I think it's great. I think it's really cool. I think it's interesting. I think it can be nerve-wracking for a lot of people to go into these things, but I would think I do think it would be really interesting to do a big event where there's more than 15 couples that you're kind of rotating through.
That would be amazing. I just need to get more men to buy tickets, because that's the only issue I've had is that there's an overwhelming amount of women interested.
Yeah.
So
what if you...
there's so many things I want to talk about with you personally. Just like what's happening on the societal level for that to be the case.
Yeah. Well, I think that clip that you shared the other day was very interesting.
Yeah, and there's so many layers to that clip. Like that, and that was only a segment of that whole conversation. Yeah. So you can go so deep. And I mean, based on some of the posts that you've made, and we're getting a little bit more on a personal topic now, you seem to have like a strong liberal-leaning perspective of politics. I don't know if that's accurate. It's just the way I took it from some of the posts you made. And some of the posts that I would make would be the opposite. But I don't align conservatively. I'd like to be firmly in the middle, because I don't think you should pick a side, because then you're alienating some valuable points from either perspective. But I just wanted to talk to you, because it seems like you have very different opinions than I, and I'm sure they're super valid. And I want to know why they're valid. But that's a conversation for another time, I think.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's something that like people probably want to get into in their first 5 minutes of speed dating, but there's not enough time.
I'll leave you with this, and I think I think after this is where I think we can maybe end. If you're having a hard time getting men to sign up, why not spin it around? Because you're having success reaching women. So encourage the women who know the single men to sign up.
I have.
You're already ahead of me.
Yeah.
I would think that would have a really good effect.
It did. It did for some of the events. The one I have coming up on Monday is 50 to 65, and maybe it's because it's an older demographic.
Yeah.
But again, there's a lot, like an overwhelming amount of women asking for me to open up more tickets or to host a second event, and I'm like, I can't do a second event if I don't even have enough men who want to come to the first one.
I think to just kind of box this in for a second, I think that might be limited to your audience right now, which you mentioned was mostly females. So once your audience grows, I think you will get more of a men sign up.
Yeah.
I think we're 50-50 on this show, so I think that might help bring you a few more men who are single.
Yeah, for sure. And if people can like tell their parents and coworkers and all of that. And it's still very new, like this is April. I only started that in January, so it's still very new, and like I'm working out the kinks, and everyone has been very nice and very great with like giving feedback and stuff. So it's been great. Yeah, it's been so fun meeting people and just hearing their like dating stories and why they came to speed dating and all of that. So yeah, it's been really fun.
It's definitely going to be interesting no matter what you do.
I'm excited to see where it goes, but larger events would be really fun.
Yeah.
And just even figuring out more of a routine and like the best way to do it and have it be consistent. Because I think that's like the main thing that I want too, is to have it be like a consistent thing, because unfortunately people do break up every day. And there's people who move here, there's people who get out of relationships, and then so just because you go to one 25 to 35 age group doesn't mean it's going to be the exact same people at the next one.
Right.
Yeah.
And it could grow to the size where you are running 20 to 30, 30 to 40 all at one time, just because you've got such a large
and that's what happens in other provinces, it seems. So I'm kind of like looking at how they do things and seeing like what the possibilities are for that.
Yeah. Okay. So for our viewers, everyone get off the dating apps and come to speed dating.
Yes, you can find it all at Speed Dating NL on Facebook and Instagram.
Perfect.
And Eventbrite.
Well, and also the Newfound podcast as well.
Newfound Happy Hour, yep. Same thing, Instagram and Facebook as well.
Perfect. Well, this was interesting. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you guys.
And talking about your podcast, talking about speed dating. It's fascinating, honestly. And I really do wish you good luck with it.
Thank you.
And I hope you get the big event sooner than you think.
I'll keep you updated.